Okay. All right, welcome everyone. Great to see everybody after a one-day hiatus because of the Q&A. Irving Fishbaum sent out the Q&A on the chat, and it's there on the Rabbi Weiss Daf Yomi chat from the Irgun on YouTube. It's very, very, very clear in that way. If anybody wants me to send them by WhatsApp the YouTube of the Q&A, it's an hour and a half Q&A. It was very well received, Baruch Hashem.
Rabbi Weiss, my wife loved it.
Yeah, thank you. It was very well received. If anybody wants me to send it, just WhatsApp me and I'll send it to you. I'm going to be putting up a version of it, a little bit more abbreviated, without Shelley's questions. I'm going to be putting up a version of that sometime. Tonight we have a busy night because we have the Daf, and then we have the Chumash here, and then I'm going to do yesterday and today's Mishnah Yomi. So a lot to get done this evening. But first, let's get down to the business of the Daf, sponsored by A.B. Spry, with the tefillah that all children should get into yeshiva quickly and easily, without heartache to the parents. We learn, sponsored by Baruch Ian and family, Lila Nishmas Esther Bas Yaina, Yaakov Chaim Ben Abba, Avram Ben Shmuel HaKoyen, they should have a lichter Gan Eden. We learn Lefur Shalema from my Shver, Avigdor Aryeh Ben Rivka, who got some good news. We took him for a scan yesterday, and actually my wife took him, and it showed shrinkage, so that's a very good news. And we learn from Marshall's brother, Mordechai ben Sari Hudis, should have a refuah shalema b'seich shar chilul Yisrael. Okay, we welcome in Saba, joining us, Berish Gesseman, who is here, and Michal, and Nachman Chapler, who is still in the hospital, but Baruch Hashem, he received some good news. So Nachman, we continue to learn for your gesund to return home without pain. And Aaron Swade, Baruch Ians, Dr. Black, Nathan Goldman, Eddie Chazan, Reuven Pollack, Shimon Klein, Mel Zachter, Shalom Fogel, Yisrael Fisher, who was at the Shir live last night with his wife and his daughter, and he's back now in Tannersville. Yitzi Muller, welcome back, Yitzi. Irving Fishbaum, Gedalia Engel, Dr. Guy, Moshe Lehman, Rabbi Kranz, Moshe Jackman, Ilya Shutman, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, and Yehuda from Yerushalayim. David Helfgott on Kol Haloshin. And we are holding by Tanur Rabbanan 6 lines from the bottom. Now, there are 2 variables that we are going to discuss now. The first variable is it chutz or t'nai. Right? So if you say that Sarah should be divorced except from Shmuel, that's no good. If you say on the condition, that is good. But the second variable is, was it written in the body of the get, or was it written after the body of the get? So now let's see how that plays out. Tan Rabbanan, Kol ha'tanoim poislim beget. Now this is a very stringent opinion. It's the opinion of Rebbe that all conditions written in the get are possible. Why? Gezerah, you might write chutz from Shmuel. So he therefore says any tanoim in the body of the get is possible. Divrei Rebbe. No, kol shepoisel al peh. If it's something that would disqualify if said orally, in other words, chutz from Shmuel, which is no good because it's Meshayir beget and it's not a creases, so then paisel b'ksav, it passes if it's written in the body of the get. Because she'ain a paisel al peh, but if it doesn't disqualify if said orally, on the condition that you pay $1 million, So then, ain't a paisel b'ksav, it doesn't pass if you write it in the body of the get. Chutz, if you say, except for shmiel, shepaisel al peh, that disqualifies in the orally, paisel b'ksav, al manas, on the condition, she ain't a paisel al peh, ain't a paisel b'ksav. Now, Reb Zera says the other variable, machlokes lefnei atayif. The machlokes is if it's written in the body of the get. The Rebbe suffered gazrinon almanas otu chutz. We're geyser that if you do on the condition, which wouldn't be a problem, because of chutz. V'rabbanan gazrinon savrei that we don't make a gzeira. Like gazrinon almanas otu chutz. Aval la'achar atayif, but if it's written after the body of the get, where there it only disqualifies midrabbanan, because you might write it in the body of the get, it's a gzeira. So therefore, if you write almanas, which would be a gzeira l'gzeira, divrei hakol kosher. Umasnisan diktani kosvu, and our Mishnah which says it was written, v'ukimna b'chutz, where you wrote except for this person, aval almanas lo yipasel, but if you say almanas, it doesn't disqualify. So iba yisayim alifnei atayr, if it's in the body of the get and it's going according to Rabbanan. V'iba yisayim alachar atayr, if it's after the body of the get, and then since everybody holds then that almanas is good, then it's going divrei hakol. Then it's going according to everyone. Now Rava has a different arrangement of the variables. As the Gemara tells us, we welcome in Menachem Umansky, who just joined us for our 26th Zoomer of the young evening, and we are holding Menachem 4 lines from the top of Pei Hey Amud Aleph. V'Rava Amar, Rava says, machlokes la'achar atayif. The machlokes is after the body of the get. The Rebbe savar gazrinon atu lefnei atayif. Rebbe says even almanas is no good, and he holds it's a kula chada gezeri. Rabbanan savar lo gazrinon atu lefnei atayif. We're not geyser almanas after the body of the get because of almanas inside of the get. Aval lefnei atayif, but almanas inside the body of the get, divrei hakol pasuk. Everybody holds that we geyser almanas otu chutz. Umasnisan diktani kisvu v'kimnu b'chutz. That's only b'chutz. Aval almanas loy pasel, but almanas doesn't pasel. Then that's going to be after the body of the get, according to Rabbanan. Achar atayif Rabbanani, and only according to the Rabbanan. Toni Avua de Rabbi Avin Kamei de Rav Zera. The father of Rabbi Avin taught b'fnei Rav Zera. Kos of get al t'nai divrei hakol pasuk. If you write a get on a t'nai, everybody holds its pasuk. So the Gemara says, what do you mean? If it's almanas, that was a machlokes between Rabbi and Rabbanan. Says the Gemara, v'hamiflik pligi, ela ema l'divrei hakol kosher. That if it's almanas, it's kosher according to everybody, and that's going according to the first version that says that by almanas, after the body of the get, it's a gzeira l'gzeira, and everybody holds that's not a problem. Ve'echidami la'achar atayif. Says the Gemara, well, why don't you say that, why are you changing it to harizeh kosher? Keep it as harizeh pasel, and say that it's going according to Rebbe and it's not divrei hakol. I mean, why are you changing harizeh pasel to harizeh kosher? Change the word divrei hakol. V'leima harizeh pasel v'Rebbe. So the Gemara says it's not likely they made a mistake between divrei hakol and divrei Rebbe, but a mistake between pasel and kosher, that could be. Says the Gemara, Tana divrei hakol asnei The Tana says divrei hakol. Kosher b'pasel michlafle. It can be a mistake between kosher and pasel. That happens. Harizeh, this is the opinion of Rebbe. B'divrei hakol, but everybody says it. That's not mistaber, that would be mixed up. Loi michlafle. Now, remember we said that if you're mishayer in the get, it's no good because it's not a krisis. So if he says you're permitted to everybody except for Shmuel, that's no good. What happens if he says you're permitted to everyone except your father and my father? What's the din then? So since there's no kedushin anyway, it's an Issachar, it's an Issamisa, there's no kedushin anyway, that's not a shear. So Hari Atma Teres L'Kol Adam, you are permitted to everyone, El Abba Levicha, except to my father, to your father, Lachi, my brother, Lachicha, your brother, Le'evet, to an Evet Kanani, who there's no kedushin with an Evet Kanani, or Le'evet Kachavim with a guy, there's no kedushin with a guy, or L'Kol Misha Ein La Olav kedushin, or anybody else that there would be no kedushin, like to an uncle, so kosher, because you're really not leaving out anything, because with these people anyway there's no kedushin. However, Hari Admut Teres L'Kol Adam, you are permitted to everybody Ella Almana L'Kohen Gadol, except that he says that she can't marry. If she's a widow, she can't marry a Kohen Gadol. Grusha v'chalutza Kohen. If she's a grusha or a chalutza, she can't marry a Kohen. Mamzeres u'nesina liyisrael. If she's a mamzeres or a ger givoni, she can't marry Yisrael. Or bas Yisrael l'mamzer l'nazir. Or if she's a Beis Yaakov girl, she can't marry a mamzer and a nazir. Now here's the problem. Even though these people are aser, but there is kedushin. So by telling her not, you're restricting the people who she would have kedushin with. So then, or the kol mishi yeshlav kedushin, or anybody else that's forbidden, but there would be kedushin, like for example, a ger Ammoni or Moavi. So even though it's bavera, afilu bavera, puzzle, that gets no good because there is a shear. With his get, he's holding her back from people that she would have had kedushin with. So the Gemara just says klala dereisha when it says in the Mishnah lekol misha ein alav kedushin. That's a klal. It's coming to include other people. That comes lasuye shar chayav krisis, our uncle. So if it says here's your get that you can't marry your uncle, that's not a shear in the get because she anyway can't have kedushin with the uncle. Klalo de seifa is lasuye shar chayve lavin, other chayve lavin, like kagoyin amoyni ma'avin nesini mitzvah yadaimi, like somebody from Ammon Amoyev or a ger givoni or first generation or second generation mitzvah and adaimi, who you're not allowed to marry, but there would be kedushin. So by saying she can't marry, that is being mishayer in the get. And that means that there's no full krisis. So now the Gemara asks an interesting question. It's really very good to have everybody here. And by the way, when you listen to the Q&A, you're not just listening to me, but you're listening to Shelley, who did a bang-up job in getting the people interested in the questions. So you want to hear the radiophonic voice of Shelley Zeitlin, you want to listen to the shir.
He did a wonderful job. He did a beautiful job.
Thank you, Irving.
Now, Boy minei Rava mi Rav Nachman. So Rava asked from Rav Nachman, what if he says to her, Chatzkel says to Sarah, you're divorced chutz mikidushay kat, except that you can't marry this child, Nathan the child. Now right now there's no kedusha with the child, but the child will grow up and he'll still be excluded, and then there will be kedusha. Now he's not Ein das. There can't be kedushin. Oidil ma'asi l'klal havaya. Amalei tanitua. We learned ketana miskareshes b'kedusha aviyah. This is a very big chiddush. A girl of 9 could accept her divorce, even though her father was the one that was accepted the kedushin for her. Now that's a little perplexing. The father accepted the kedushin, that's a kedushin d'oraisa. But when you give the get to the 9-year-old, it's only a gerushin d'rabanan. So how does that work? You need the yitzia, the divorce, to be on the same level as the havaya, the kedushin. Ella, the Gemara says it's good because asya l'chalal havaya. She will be of the age of kedushin, so it's even good now. So achanami, when you are meshayira and say except for Nathan, asya l'chalal havaya, he will be roy for kedushin. So therefore, it is a sheer beget, and that's the Gemara says. You're right. It's no good. Chutz min hanoylodim ma'u. This guy's a character. He says you're divorced for everybody in the world now, but not people born afterwards. I don't want you. If you're leaving me, I don't want you to marry a kid. You're not permitted to anybody that's born after this. So right now, there's no sheer beget. Nobody is born yet. It's a sheer for those people that will be born. Amalei tanitua. It says if he says you're divorced for everybody except for a slave and a guy. But if you're going to worry about future events, the guy might become a ger. The Eved might be freed. The Eved could be emancipated and become a Yid, and the guy could convert. So the Gemara says it's not a good comparison. Because that's not something that's a natural development. We don't know if he'll convert. We don't know if the Eved will ever be freed. But we know children will be born. And therefore, since he said except for the next generation, that's a shear in the get. Oh, this is an interesting thing. He's married to Rachel. And he says to her, he's not married to Rachel. She's Rachel. And he says to her, you're permitted to everyone except for Leah's husband. Now, right now, she can't marry Leah's husband. It's achos ishtoi. But if Leah dies, then she could. So she can't marry Leah's husband because it's achos ishtoi. Leah might die, and then she could marry him. And therefore maybe it's a shear in the get. That if he said except for an Eved or a guy, it's not a shear. But why? The Eved might be emancipated, the guy might be Megayim. You see, we're not worried about that. So we shouldn't worry that Leah's husband will die. Eved nami avidei Megayim. Says the Gemara, Geiris lo shricha. That's a highly unusual thing, that a specific person should convert or be emancipated. Unfortunately, everybody dies, lo yaleinu. Misa shchicha. Chutz miznusech mahu. I'm telling you, this guy's a character. He says you should be divorced and allowed to marry everybody. But you can't have an affair with anybody. Is that a shear in the get? B'nisu and alo ishaya. He didn't restrict her to marry anybody. Oidil mishaya b'biyah, but he did restrict who she could live with. Amalei tanitua, it says la'abo levicha, to your father, to my father, to your father. Ubamai, to marry my father, your father. Ilaim of Nesuin? Obviously, you can't marry your father or your father-in-law. Abba v'avicha b'nei nesuin nenu. El labas nus. It means that you can't play around with them. And it's only with them that it's not a shira get, but with other people it is. It says, no. Maybe it means to marry. And to marry illegally. Dilma b'nisuin. When it says the father and your father, it means marriage. And it's talking about an illegal marriage. As we welcome in Abe Arbach joining us. What if he says, what if he says, I can't see who's joining us. Who is that? In the hallway. Well, whoever you're invited. Says the Gemara, who is joining us from Ateres Avos? I don't know. They're not talking. So now the Gemara says, and if you're just joining us in process, we are holding on Pei Hey Amid Aleph, and we are holding by 3 lines from the beginning of the wide lines. Chutz mishaloi kedar kamar. What if he says you're divorced from me? You just can't have unnatural relations with anybody. Regular relations you could have with everybody. You just can't have unnatural relations. Anal sex. Says the Gemara, he didn't leave anything when it comes to normal. It says mishkavei in the plural, which includes both kedarka and shaloi kedarka. He says you're permitted to everyone except they're not going to be able to annul your vow. So maybe the get is a good get because it didn't leave anything when it comes to nesuin. When it comes to marriage, nothing was left out. Or do we say, Oidilma, since it says Isha Yekimenu, the Isha Yefirenu, it's a marital right to confirm and annul a vow. If he's restricting that people can't do it, so that's a sheer beget. Chutz mitruma secha mahu. This is a very interesting case. We'll learn like Rashi, like the Achrayim learn Rashi. He says to her, except for being able to eat truma. Now there's a very big problem with this. As we welcome in our Reb Yafi, who's joining us, Baruch Hashem, Reb Yafi has come back to the Daf. Oh yeah, I daven for this, Reb Yafi. Kiddushin, Rabbi say Tuesday, Kiddushin. You start Kiddushin with us, you finish Shas in 7.5 years. It's unbelievable. You learn Kiddushin, you could go Elul. This Shabbos, we're going to say, Reish Chodesh Elul, yeah. You'll be able to say, Rabbi Nishlam, I'm going to learn with Rabbi Weiss, and I'm going to learn this year the entire Bava Kama and Bava Metzia, the entire Bava Kama and Bava Metzia, unbelievable. So anyway, is that Mr. Weichbrad? Oh my goodness, Rabbi Avram Weichbrad, it's wonderful to see you. Oh.
I haven't seen you in the longest time.
Shalom Aleichem. I have to tell my family over here.
I say wow to that. Wow.
Reb Weichbrad is a Talmud of mine.
How many years did I used to come to your dad?
I think 30 years.
Something like that. You do better than me.
30 years, but he didn't just come. You have to understand, Reb Weichbrod was a mashgiach in Maimonides Hospital, and he was up 5:30 in the morning, and yet he came to my daf at 10:15 in the Aguda 14th Avenue, and he didn't miss. Reb Weichbrod, you look wonderful.
You too.
You look wonderful. Oh, you know how happy I am to see you? I can't even begin to tell you how happy I am to see you.
How many years? 40 years?
Maybe.
40 years.
Reb Weichbert, I want to tell you, if we had time, I would start from Brachas Daf Beis right now and catch up for you. But we don't have time. But if I would, let me also tell you, Rabbi Isai, about Reb Weichbert. His wife, Zecher Tzadik Livracha Schusi Yagan Aleinu, saw a sign on a lamppost about the daf.
Right, that's right.
And talked to him about coming to the shir. This man did not miss B'dika night, Motzi Yom Kippur, Purim night. He never missed the shir. Oh,
Who used to remind me?
yeah,
My wife always told me.
yeah.
He said, time to go.
My wife, is this the gentleman whose grandson was at the Aguda dinner when you were honored years ago?
Yes, he's the one. He's the one that catered it.
Yeah,
Remember Simcha, right?
right. My nephew.
Wow. Rabbi said the shir has just been upgraded exponentially. It's gewaldig to have you.
He came to my son's bar mitzvah also.
That's correct. That's correct. And we want to thank Shelley Zeitlin, who had to do with getting the tablet that made this possible. And we want to thank the people in Ateres Avos for making this possible as well. It's really, really great to have you.
You have to make a shachiano.
Says the Gemara. Now let's get to this case of chutz mitrumasech or mitrumasecha, because this is a very difficult case. Because you understand, he's giving her a get. So if he's giving her a get, how could she marry a kohen to be able to eat truma? Taisus asked the kash. It's a very obvious question. What's he stipulating except for truma? She's never going to be able to marry a truma because she's now got a get. She won't be able to marry a kohen.
She's a boss coin, maybe.
What? No, that has nothing to do with the get. He can't stipulate her rights as a bas kohen. He could stipulate about her marrying somebody. That's the koyach that he has. Right? There has to be a stipulation in a marriage. So Rashi says, the way they learn Rashi is she could get engaged to a kohen, have chuppah with a kohen, and not sleep with him. So as long as she doesn't sleep with him, she was never nischalala. She's kinyan kaspai, and she could eat truma. And therefore he stipulates chutz mitruma secha, that your husband shouldn't entitle you to eat truma. Let's see it inside. Chutz mitruma secha ma b'nesuan aloi shayir. He didn't stop her from marrying anybody. Oidome kinyan kaspai ksiv, it's a right of marriage, and he's stopping it. Chutz mi yerusha secha ma, that your husband shouldn't be able to inherit you. Do we say b'nesuan aloi shayir, she can marry anybody? Oy dilma, since the Yerusha is a right of marriage, l'sheiroi v'yorash oisa, to the sheiroi akora v'eleha, which is a husband, a wife, and therefore it's a din in sheiras, in ishus. Maybe that's considered a shear in the get. Chutz mikidusheich b'shtar. You're divorced, and you can marry anybody with kesef or bia, but you can't be mekudeshes with a shtar. What a Drake cup. Do we say, Mi Amrina Nefshe the Mekashel B'Kesef Abiyah? There's no shear. She can marry anyone with Kesef Abiyah. It has to be a divorce that allows for all the Havayas. It has to be eligible even for Kedusha Shtar. Teku. We're going to let Eliyahu Navi deal with this. Tishbi Yataritz, Kushas Vibais. Now, Gufay shall get, the core of the get, is Hariyat Meteres Kol Adam. Once he writes the Hariyat Meteres Kol Adam, she's divorced. Rabbi Yehuda says, not good enough, as we turn to Pei Amid Beis. Not good enough. Why not good enough? It's Yadayim She'enon Mechiches. Because maybe he's divorcing her with his statement. And the get is only a document of evidence. Now that's no good. He needs to divorce her with the get. It needs to be the vehicle of severance. And therefore Rabbi Yehuda says you have to say the word dain. This. Rabbi Yehuda, I'm a dain de havi lichimi noi. This has to be from me to you, Sefer Teruchen, a document of severance, v'gerish shivukin, a letter of forsaking, v'get piturin, and a writ of release, lebahach, le'isnafsa l'chol gever. It should be that you could go to marry any person, the yitziatzvian that you want. Gufa shall get shechur, the core of a writ of emancipation to an Eved Knani, is hari'at bas chayrin, you are free, hari'at la'atzmecha, you are for yourself. Says the Gemara, moving right along over here on an extremely busy night. Extremely busy night. Pshita amalal ishtai. If he says to his wife, Hari at bascharin, you're free, that's not enough. That just might mean that you're free, you don't have to do the dishes. You're free, you don't have to go to work. That's not a good divorce. If he tells his maidservant, Hari at adam, you're allowed to marry anybody, that's not enough. Because he has to say that you're free from slavery. What if he says to his wife, you are on your own? Do we say legamre kamala? He said, you're on your own, you're not tied to me anymore. Or that you're not bound to work. You don't have to watch the kids. We could do a kal v'chaim. Tanan Gufay shall get shechur. The core of a writ of emancipation is hariat bas chayrin, you are free, or hariat la'atzmacha. Now, if that works even for a shivka whose body is acquired to the master, Oma avdo dekani le the Gufay, whose body is acquired to the master. Ki amalei hariat la'atzmacha kani Gufay, she acquires her freedom. Isha, that's less, she's not owned bodily by the husband. The loikani gufa, loikoshchein, that if you say hariat la'atzmacha, it's good. Amalei ravina l'ravashi. Amalei la'avdai, if he tells his servant, ainli asik bach, I have no business with you. Oh, this is interesting. Ainli asik bach, I have no business with you. Does that work? Mao. Amalei Rav Khan l'Ravashi. So Rav Khan said to Ravashi, "V'imra Rav Khan mechuzno l'Ravashi Tojma Titania hamoicher avdoi la'oivei kechav." If one sells his servant to a guy, now remember, when you sell your servant to the guy, we throw the book at you. Because when you sell your servant to a guy, an Eved Kanani has mitzvahs like a woman, has to keep Shabbos, and by selling him to a guy, the guy will cause him to work on Shabbos, so that's a no-no. When you sell your Eved to a guy, you have to buy him back up to 10 times his price, and then free him. Yotza l'cheres. He's automatically freed, but if he wants to marry a Beis Yaakov girl, you need to give him a writ of emancipation. V'tzarech get shikra merabba rishon. Except, says the Gemara, when you didn't write for him a release. If you wrote for him a release, then that is his writ of emancipation. You write to him when you escape the guy, you're free. When you run away from him, so we see the Gemara extrapolates from this that the term of Ein li eisik bach, I have no business with you anymore, is a good language of emancipation. Now, remember we said that the machloikis in the Mishnah, if hariyat muteres l'kol adam is enough or not, revolves around yadayim she'enim achichas, where the language is not concrete. It's a bit ambiguous. So Rabbi Yehuda says it's only good, v'dein dihavi lichiminai, and this should be to you from me, Sefer Tiruchen, a book of severance, v'gerish shibukin, and a letter of separation. But my kamifligi, what are they arguing? Rabbanan sabra yadayim she'enam meichichas, a handle, a partial formula, which is not absolutely without any ambiguity, havian yadayim. It's good enough. V'afal gav deloy kosev lo v'dein, this, muchra milsa, still, it's pretty assumed. The Bahai Gita coming Arishla. It's with the vehicle of the get that he's divorcing her. Rabbi Yehuda says you can't just take an assumption. Rabbi Yehuda Savar Yadayim Shema Mechichas Lo having Yadayim. It has to be concrete. The time of the cost of a day. This is the vehicle. The get. The Muchacha Milsa, the Bahai Gita coming Arishla. He's divorcing her with the get. Avaloi cost of a day. If he doesn't write and this. Imrei b'dibura garsha. It's only divorcing her with words. And the shtar is just a raya b'alma. It's just a piece of evidence, like a proof of a purchase. Amar Abaya. Now, we're going to see that in a get, you have to be very careful. You can't put in an extra yud. You can't make a mistake between a yud and a vav. You know, Rabbi Wein was a Talmud of the great Rabbi Kreisworth. And after Rabbi Wein did his first get, he told his Rebbe he doesn't want to do it anymore. So his Rebbe said, why? He said, the day I gave a get, I couldn't sleep the whole night before. I couldn't sleep. I was so worried I could make a mistake and that could result in mamzerim. So Rabbi Kreisworth told Rabbi Wein, so who should do Gittin? People that can sleep? It's a very serious business get. Very serious. I never participated in a get. I never even saw a get. I am so allergic to the idea of get, although of course sometimes it has to be done. I'm not dumb. But I'm so allergic to it that my father's mother, who perished in the Holocaust, her name was Gittin Daf. I couldn't give any of my daughters the name Gittin because it contains in it the letters of a get. I couldn't do it. My brother has a Gittul Taiva. Wonderful, wonderful mother and wife. But I couldn't do it. Says the Gemara. And Rabbi said, I hope everybody is just conserving their energy for a wonderful evening to come. Wonderful, special evening to come. And again, the terrific, and I, if I might say so myself, the terrific Q&A of last night, it was one of the best ones from over the years. Q&A is on the Rabbi Weiss Daf chat. Irving put it there. The YouTube hookup. If anybody wants them to send it to them, just WhatsApp me or text me, and I'll immediately send it to you. Be'ezus Hashem b'li neder. Amar Abaya, Haiman de Kosev Gita, the one that writes the get, Loy lichte v'dain. Don't write v'dain with a yud. It has to be dain without a yud, because then the mashma v'din, that would imply that I'm divorcing her because it's the law. But if it's not the law, which it isn't, I wouldn't divorce her. Ella without a yud v'dain, which means this. V'loy lichtav igeres with a yud. You see how this is amazingly exact? Don't write it, because then that would imply a roof, which would make the whole thing nonsensical. Ela igeres, which is a letter. V'loy lichtav limahach, with a yud, because then that could be read as two words. The mashma limahach, you are to me because of this letter, which would be the opposite of divorcing her. Ela limahach, to go. V'loy lichtav limachach. Be careful, you write a hey and not a ches, because mechach would mean a chucha v'tlula, that you're saying it's a joke. The mashma kichucha, that it's just a joke. Now the words dite havayon, that you should be, and the yitzat vayon, whoever you want to marry, desire to marry, should have tlasa yudin. Should have 3 yudin. The tavyon and the seitzvon, the yun, should have 3 yudin. Because that means the mashma to have yon b'tzitz bayon, that you should be permitted, and whoever you will want, and not with 2 yuds, because if you write it with 2 yuds, then it would mean that they should be permitted, and they will want, which would not refer to you, the wife. The lurchei levav de teiruchin ulevav de shavukin, and make sure that the vav of teiruchin and the vav of shavukin is long, that it's read as a vav. Because if you don't make it long, then it would look like a yud, the mashma trichin ushvichin, which means other women. Shvikin and trichin means women that are severed and women that are sent away, and it wouldn't refer to her. V'lorchei levav de chedai. Chedai means now. Because if you make it kedi means nothing. The mashmu kedi, which would seem to be saying that the get is nothing. V'loy lichtav leisnasva, to marry with a yud in it. Because then, I'm assuming with an aleph in it. If you put the aleph leisnasva, then that could be broken into 2 words and mean lo yisnasva. You shouldn't get married. The mashma lo yisnasva. So that's how careful you have to be with every letter and how you write the letter. I mean, Shelley's listening to this and saying, how could I sleep the whole week? Shelley understands now why I don't do Gittin. I'm allergic, Shelley, I have an allergy. Just thinking about it makes me break out in hives. That's why they call me Wimp Weiss. You didn't know that? I'm a Wimp Weiss. Okay, this was the first foot of tonight's shir.